Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special BAFTA Q&A on Sky Original Drama, the third day. I'd go, woohoo, as though we're all in the same room, but we kind of are in the same room. It's a virtual room, and we're all together. I'm Miranda Sawyer, and I'm your host for the evening. In a moment, Katherine Roach, who's the Director of Drama for Sky Studios, will talk you through this frankly brilliant project, which manages to combine TV, drama, spook, and a theatrical live event. And after that, I'm going to talk to some of the fantastic people who've brought and are bringing this amazing piece of work to fruition. So just to explain how this little session works, we'll be chatting for about 45-50 minutes, and then we've got 10 minutes for your questions. So have a think, send them through on the Q&A function below. And that's it. We need to crack on. We've got no time. So please say a virtual hello or a big hello to Katherine Roach, Sky Studios Director of Drama.
Thank you so much, Miranda, and thanks all for joining this evening. I'm delighted to be able to introduce you to this Sky original. It's a psychological thriller, The Third Day, which is the first original drama we announced from Sky Studios. The series did launch last Tuesday, the first episode airing on 15th of September on Sky Atlantic and Now TV, as well as with our partners at HBO. Stars Jude, Naomi Harris, Katherine Waterson, Emily Watson, Paddy Considine, and is created by Dennis Kelly and Felix Barrett. The series is told in 3 standalone but interconnected stories that all take place on OC Island: summer, autumn, and winter. Summer and winter will air on Sky Atlantic and each comprise of 3 episodes. The first 3 summer, directed by Marc Munden. The second 3 winter, directed by Philippa Lowthorpe. Stick with me on this. In what promises to be a truly unique experience, autumn will come between and will follow the events of a single day in real time over the course of 12 hours as live on Sky Arts. Created by theatrical innovators Punch Drunk, we're delighted to be able to broadcast Autumn free to air on Sky Arts. Today we have an amazing panel lineup, including Dennis Kelly, Felix Barrett and Marc Munden, as well as our brilliant cast, Jude and Katherine Waterson, hosted by Miranda. So we are so thrilled to be adding this to our lineup of shows this year. It's been a real turning point for us here at Sky this year, from the amazing success of Gangs of London through to Little Birds and I Hate Susie that have recently aired on Sky Atlantic. It's been a really terrific year, adding to our BAFTA successes of Chernobyl. But I'd like to take this opportunity to say huge thanks to everyone involved in making Third Day come together, from everyone at Sky Studios as well as HBO, Punch Drunk and Plan B Entertainment, the brilliant producer Adrian Sturgis, and our fantastic cast who've all made this possible. So over to you, Miranda. Thank you so much for joining us today and look forward to the Q&A.
Right. Bye, Cameron. You have to disappear now.
I'm disappearing.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to wave at you all because it's a nice thing to do, but we have everyone here. We have Dennis Kelly, who is a writer and co-creator. We've got over in my top corner, but possibly different for everybody else, we've got Felix Barrett from Punch Drunk, who'll be directing the autumn section, is also co-creator. We've got Marc Munden, who's the director of Summer, which we've just started last week, and then we have Jude, who plays Sam, and Katherine Waterson, who plays Jess. So there, big roundup. We have them all. Hello, everybody. You can just wave. You know, it's fine. Okay, so I'm going to start at the beginning. I'm going to start with you, Dennis. When we say that, it sounds really complicated, but it isn't that complicated, is it? It's actually almost 3 unique dramas that we could just completely watch separately. You could watch Summer as itself as a 3-part drama. You could watch Autumn as an event, and you could watch Winter as a 3-part drama as well, if you wanted to. But obviously it's better as a whole thing. Would you like to just unpick it and give us a big sell? Because I've watched it and I am sold.
Oh, good. Yeah, watch it. That's the best thing. But yeah, I think that's not a bad way of describing it, actually. I mean, I think that they are connected, each segment, you know, but it was about sort of telling a story in 3 different ways. And so it's almost like the first one, Summer, is it's almost like a film, really, which is separate from the last one, which is Winter, you know. I mean, the bit in the middle is obviously the strangest because it's a piece of theatre, you know. But the two sort of, the two bits on either side, Summer and Winter, you know, we wanted them to have their own distinct feelings, which is why, you know, we spoke to people like Mark to direct it and Philippa to direct the second block, because they were sort of, you know, we knew that they would need a real kind of distinct voice over them, you know. So each little segment, it will tell its own story, but together it tells the whole thing. I mean, you can watch the TV without watching the live event, the thing, without watching Autumn, and it will work. It will work as a series. But the best way to sort of watch it all is to watch the whole thing, and you'll get so much more.
Yes,
it's mad, really. I don't know why we did it. It's a crazy idea.
It's great. I love it. Okay, Felix, I'm going to turn to you. Yes, switch off the mic. Felix and Mark are where? Where are you? Please tell me where you are.
We're on the island.
Yeah. So you're on the island of OC, which is obviously where everything takes place. People can't leave. They can't leave. They literally can't leave because the tide goes over the causeway. You are there now. I know this is a kind of history and you're actually there, but I did want to slightly unpick, Felix, that I know that you and Dennis wanted to create, and have for quite a while, wanted to create something that works with television and theatre. That's right?
That's completely it. I think we wanted to sort of play with the idea of breaking the fourth wall of TV, so that your screen collapses and a chance for an audience to sort of plunge into the world of it. And I think also just as sort of as storytellers, it's really exciting, the challenge of how do you tell a tale across different mediums, across different disciplines. And, you know, there's such a sophisticated TV watching audience these days. I personally love being challenged, and it feels like it's exciting to try and navigate the different disciplines, but, you know, all focused on one place, this crazy island we are here today.
Yes. Okay. Shall we talk the island? I feel like we should do. Okay. So OC, it's a very particular place, and it has its own history, which is partly wrapped up into the drama. Part of it is real. It's a cliche, I suppose, to say, oh, you know, in a film or in a TV show, this environment is, you know, it's another character. But it is another character in this. It really is a fundamental part of the whole thing. I want to ask you, I'm going to ask you, Jude first, and then you, Katherine. How did you feel when you first crossed that causeway?
Hello, everyone. Gosh, well, by the time, trying to remember if I went over before, no. So by the time I actually got to go to the, I had all these aspirations and dreams that I was going to go over there prior to filming to understand it better and get a feel of the place, and that never happened. We rehearsed extensively, and then we started filming on the coast around Essex, and then yes. So by the time we got to actually going to the island, I was already in the thick of the part, which I have to tell you sort of hijacked me slightly. I was a bit of a kind of emotional wreck, really, because the fragility of Sam's mental state and emotional state. So I think I've only ever really experienced OC fully through Sam's eyes, and there is something physical and otherworldly about it. Obviously, arriving by causeway and being surrounded by sea, it is at times incredibly beautiful and at times very unsettling because of the isolation. And in a way, the beauty sometimes makes you feel unsettled. But once we settled in, or certainly once I settled in, I had a wonderful time. There was something very unique and very special about living in the set. So, you know, our camera crew were in one of the houses in the village, and our prop guys were in the pub, and I was in one of the cottages next to the main house, and we would walk to work. So there was a lovely sense of community for the filmmakers, for all of us as a company. But the place will forever be, for me, seen through the sort of emotional eyeglasses of Sam and the unfortunate events that befall him on a ride.
So you might have been put off it for a holiday, really. Okay, we understand.
Possibly, yeah. I might go back at Halloween.
Well, you have to go back soon. I just would like to point out. Okay, Katherine, can you remember how you felt when you first arrived on the island, when you went over?
Yeah, what really surprised me, hi everyone, what really surprised me was how slowly you have to drive on the causeway. I'd sort of taken for granted that it would be a rocky dirt road, and obviously it's really hard to maintain a causeway because it gets covered by the sea twice a day. And I think, so that was really striking. That was something, the way Dennis describes it, like, I felt like I had already seen it in my mind, that it was so clear on the page, that when we pulled up to the causeway, I thought like, oh yeah, I know this already. But I wasn't prepared for that speed down the road, and it just feels ominous. You know, you can't be casual on this road. And then I guess, like, being on the island, it's different. It's different to be on an island with an occasion that has an occasional road, to being on an island where you've completely surrendered to being in the ocean, you know, on a little piece of land. There's this feeling you can sort of get out. And it's just a different sensation, and there's more awareness of the mainland when there's a road. So that really informed me, I feel like, in the process, just while we were living and working there. This notion that it's possible and yet difficult to leave. It's not that you don't have the feeling of complete surrender that you might have on an actual island. I thought that was very interesting, and definitely, like, took me by surprise when we got out there.
Yeah, and it's a constant theme throughout the drama, isn't it? When does it open? When does it shut? How long have you got? I mean, it reminds me, and obviously it's part of the atmosphere of the whole project, is that dreamlike idea that you can nearly get there, but not quite. Something keeps pulling you, you know, something goes wrong over here and you don't get there on time. I'm going to ask you, Marc, to come in, because there is a very particular atmosphere that we're thinking about here, isn't it? With summer, and then obviously when you're going into autumn as well, but with summer, there is an atmosphere that is created by the fact that we're with Sam, we're kind of witnessing what he's witnessing, but some of it doesn't seem real. Some of it is a dream or an episode. There's a terribly ominous atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, it's a story told through Sam's eyes, you know, and he finds himself on the island, which he can't escape from. And I just thought it was a good idea to try and get very, very close to him, you know, and just see it through his eyes, but also not just see him as this character that you might not appear to be who he you know, might be, but also see the world through those eyes as well, you know, and just see how he sees the world, I suppose. So that's what gives it its atmosphere. It's really the character himself. Yes,
because you're with him, but you're not. There's a lot going on in there that you're not quite in. I'm going to bring you in, Jude, because obviously you were in that poor man's head.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as a viewer, because there are real times when you feel like, is this happening? Is this not? Which is presumably, obviously, how Sam was feeling all the way through.
Absolutely, and it was a really interesting exercise for me in the playing with the opportunity of relying on a text that obviously gave me, the actor, enough information to understand and build a sort of emotional model in my mind that made me understand each moment what was happening and what he felt and how he would react, but at the same time understanding that maybe some of it, if you know his backstory. Are we, by the way, allowed to give spoilers out on this? I don't. No. Oh, okay. So there was enough for me to understand why he was behaving in a certain way, but then I also had to have faith that the story was going to reveal the inner truth, and then also to be working alongside a director who was, you know, physically helping me because of the way he was filming things, because of the proximity of the camera, or because of the physicality of the camera. All of that really helped you know, sometimes you feel like you're battling to express a character to the conformities of storytelling through film. With this, it felt like those three elements were absolutely in sync. But I did some work, again, I've got to tread carefully, I don't want to give anything away. I did quite a lot of work prior, and we rehearsed extensively, but I did quite a lot of work prior, just talking to someone who was used to dealing with people in guilt, dealing with grief, and trying to understand what it takes a person, what kind of a trauma it takes a person to put themselves into an emotional whirlpool whereby you don't actually know whether you're doing what you're doing or whether what's happening in front of you is actually happening. And believe it or not, it's more common than you think. But once you get into that, certainly once I got into that, at times it was terrifying, really terrifying, emotionally, how vulnerable you feel and volatile you feel to other people. And obviously in a situation like this, where you've got other terrific actors and an unusual situation and location around you, it can be quite alarming, to say the
Yes, intense. You can't leave.
No.
You definitely can't leave. Katherine, I wanted to talk to you a little about your character as well, because it seems like everybody on the island has a backstory that is gradually revealed. And I wondered, as an actor, I mean, Jude's just spoken very eloquently about how involved he got with his character. But, you know, with an actor, quite often you're asked to, in inverted commas, play the truth. Do you know what I mean? You play the truth, but at no point could you ever play the full truth, could you? It's very difficult.
This might reveal some kind of sickness, but I enjoy playing the part that the story isn't really about. It brings about interesting challenges. How do you carry the life of this character in your performance within a context where not much of that can be revealed, you know, in the text. It's pretty niche work in a way, but I find it really interesting. And even as I was saying before about, you know, the notion of the causeway and how and the world beyond is felt but isn't really presented. Also for Sam, his world is very much felt there, of course, and articulated more than Jess's, but it was important to me, and again, to not give anything away, to maintain this internal relationship, so that well, I guess I was hoping that, so that if people were to watch it more than once, they might see more of this person in the performance that isn't really the central focus, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is amazing, the truth and the behind the truth. It's just it's astonishing. So Dennis, I want to bring you in because I wanted to talk you a place of work, but I'd like to talk about it as a metaphorical
Miranda, you
place.
cut out for a second. Did anybody hear that?
Okay. I'm going to come back. Maybe my son's on GTA or something. Okay, I'm going to come back. Here it is. So we've been talking about Ireland as a physical place to work, which is interesting, but I wanted to talk about it as a metaphor. It's pretty obvious, you know, Britain is an island. We have a lot of questions around who we let in, who we let out. And I wondered how much you had of that in your head when you were writing.
Well, I think it wasn't, I don't think it was specifically about Britain. You know, it's more about isolation in general and isolationism in general. And I think all across the world, we can look at, you know, we can see cultures, you know, it seems to be happening almost everywhere, where our response to difficulty seems to be to contract, you know, and it seems to be happening at a time when we're faced with problems that are truly global, and contracting is not a good idea, whether that's the financial crisis, whether that's COVID, whether that's climate change. These are all actually really big, large global problems, you know. I think one of the hopeful things is that we now as individuals have a kind of a global reach that we wouldn't have had 40 or 50 years ago. We really can see into other countries. We can go there and we can look around and we can connect to people. But I think the danger is we're sort of contracting and becoming smaller and smaller and smaller, almost like we're getting down to our small little islands where we break down to our country, and then we go even further, and then we go even further and even further, you know, until it's just me and the people that are like me, and everyone else is, you know what I mean? And there's a real danger in that, you know. And I think that's sort of what it's about. It's about this kind of tendency of isolationism everywhere. I mean, I think you're right. It's set on an island, and I guess we do happen to live on an island, you know. So they're probably, and we have been through a very big bit of soul searching about our relationship to the larger world, you know. So obviously that's there, but it's not an allegory, you know what I mean? It's not like Brexit, you know. It's not like you know, Mr. Martin is Nigel Farage, and you know. I don't know who that makes you, Jess. I'm not sure. Catherine, I'm not sure who Jess is. I'm not sure.
Oh, no, that just scared me.
No, let's not go down that route. It's just too dark, really. It's even darker than the actual drama itself. I feel like we should go over back to Felix and Marc, who are on OC. We can see the light fading, and I want to talk to you about autumn. So autumn is going to take place on October the 3rd. It's going to be 12 hours from 9:30 in the morning until 9:30 at night. And it is a real live happening event that originally somebody like me could have joined in, but we can't because of COVID. Is that right?
Yeah, originally we planned it for to be a 10,000 person music festival happening on the island. And that's what you see in episode 1. And then we realized because of the causeway and health and safety, you can't actually get that many people on in time. So it shrunk down to 2,000. And then COVID struck. And we realized we would be legally allowed an audience of 20, which doesn't make a very good music festival. So we had a moment of panic, and then we decided to pivot to an audience of 1, which is just a camera that's actually tracking in real time the events as they play out. And actually, probably, even though we're COVID enforced. It forced our hand, but actually it's probably a better solution for the whole show proper. So now it means that what would have been quite a distilled group of audience come to see it, now it's open to anybody. So anybody who's enjoying the show can come and see what happens on its holiest of days.
On its holiest of days. And it is a festival, and we all love festivals. Well, I love a festival, even though, you know, as a character says in the drama, you know, when was the last time you kind of did anything? It was June 1998. But, you know, we still love a festival. I'd like to actually talk festivals because Catherine's character Jess does point out that it's a point where you, in inverted commas, she says it's let you become yourself. You let your real self out, and that idea of a festival being an entire world that is created by the people in it is incredibly intoxicating, isn't it? I mean, that's the point of festivals, really. And who am I going to talk to about that? I'm going to talk to you, Jude. You've been to a festival or two.
I have, yeah. It's interesting because the sense of release is perhaps what bridges the idea of a festival being ritualistic in a kind of, or you know, in a sort of ethnographic way, or in a celebration of a culture or a rites of passage or a ceremony. But who's to say that going to seeing your favorite band or following the same ritual every year in the same field, you know, drinking the same drink or doing whatever you do to get to that place isn't as, or rather it is the same physical and emotional experience. And I think the rise of importance of festivals, certainly in the British culture over the last 15 years, 20 years really, has been absolutely fascinating. Because I mean, I remember back in the early 80s, I think my mum went off to Glastonbury with her friends, and it was really like niche, like real hippie dog on a string. And then when I went, it was still like, you know, you could get in free if you were crafty about it and so on. But now it's not just become a business, but also become a sort of, you know, people plan their entire summers around them, don't they? I like to think as I've gotten a bit older, actually, I've drifted back more towards the sort of Lewis bonfire type festivals and, you know, cheese rolling and stuff like that. I find those a little bit more, honestly, I find those a little more engaging in the, maybe it's, like I said, I'm coming full circle. Maybe it's all about what sort of allows you to open up, what it allows you to have a laugh and feel like you can let your guard down. And I guess
it's the freedom you're looking for, isn't it?
It's the freedom, and therefore looking for the right place to plug that in. And of course, now we have this, or well, prior to this summer, we had this sort of rota of festivals available for whatever rocked your boat. What I think is interesting about what is created on OC and what is hinted at is that it's all those. It was something that had its fingers in something very old and very real that has slowly morphed. And part of the pivot that has been made to make this, you know, through the eyes of one camera as opposed to inviting outsiders, is that initially the idea was that OC needed the outsiders to come and experience it in the guise of a modern festival. But in fact, because of COVID, we've now shut the doors, and in fact, it's going back to its roots, which is...
It's going hardcore.
Yes.
Katherine, you will, of course, be at Autumn. So you'll be at this festival. And I'm asking you, just person to person, how are you feeling about that?
Oh, I'm so excited. I mean, this is one of the most interesting aspects of this show. I mean, obviously, because no one has ever done anything like this before. And on just a personal level, getting to see behind the curtain is one of the most fun things about doing this job. You know, I've never done it, but I have friends who've like gone and gotten to go into the CIA to research a role, or, you know, that with every character, you're getting behind some curtain of how this person ticks, the world in which they live, the period in which they live. With this show, one of the exciting curtains to get to look behind was how Punch Drunk does their thing. Nobody gets to do that. Nobody gets to go behind that curtain. So, you know, that in the original form, what we thought we were going to do, I was really, really hooked and interested in being a part of that. And I do think we got, because of the shitstorm of the last year, I do think we got to the best version. I think making it something particularly insular is very interesting, but also accessible to everyone seems really important right now. And so I'm thrilled. I haven't watched the show because I have known we were going to do Autumn, and I just didn't want, I don't know, to be influenced in any way by what we made somehow. So I'm also just really excited to do Autumn so I can finish doing Autumn so that I can watch the show.
So you can watch it. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so Felix and Mark, coming back to you, it's Autumn. Okay, so you've got to, I wanted to talk slightly about the Punch Drunk way of doing things. So Punch Drunk, obviously, because we do see some of the actors in Punch Drunk in summer. So they're in the pub, right? And there's a scene where everybody gets hammered and it gets quite intense. And this is what Punch Drunk is very good at. Taking something that seems like it might have been all right and making it slightly off, right? I mean, you know, I'm a critic for a living. I think that's about right. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that, about what that essence is, how you plug into this particular story and make it real, but dreamlike at the same time. How do you work that? Felix.
Yeah, I think it is about finding the uncanny. It's like finding the other. I think what I'm excited about as a sort of audience member is thinking I'm on stable ground and then having the rug pulled from underneath me. And I think, you know, that's what Dennis does so brilliantly in all his writing. And I think it's what we're trying to achieve with this show as a whole, but also in the minutiae of the performance. So every time you think you've got a grip on, so the day's going to play this way, we want it to suddenly, it's almost the wise man built his house on rock. We want to sort of deliberately build a house on shifting sands. the shifting mud of OC. And I think it's about a brilliant group of performers who have tuned in and understand that in the same way that Jude and Katherine are sort of masters of their craft, it's knowing that you need as much sort of depth as there is duration, and you sort of allow all that nuance to come out. So I think what's so exciting about what we're doing is it's going to be 12 hours in character. So all these performers need to be able to hold it and deliver that uncanniness for longer than I think they probably ever have done before.
Yeah, it's a marathon, right? It's amazing. And Marc,
I just want to quickly add that the experience of working with the punch drunk performers and those bar scenes was absolutely extraordinary. It was like, it was an actor's playground because they're all such master improvisers. So, you know, it's just this feeling of going into a space and thinking, I can shout out Bobby and someone's going to turn and respond as Bobby and play a little moment with me. It was just totally liberating. And it's a crucial element to why I'm so excited to go back and do Autumn, is because these actors are so much fun to work with and so brilliant, and were so generous to come in and essentially be extras for us in those scenes and give so much to it. Just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I'd also like to add that you're filming from 9:30 in the morning until 9:30 at night, and that's all to do with the causeway. But then you will, of course, be spending the evening there because you can't get off the island. So once the cameras are off, in my head, it's just going to carry on.
I think that's the essence of Punch Drunk. That, you know, I'm just watching from afar because, you know, I was directing the pub scenes, but Felix had done a lot of workshopping with those actors. The idea of just winding them up and letting them go, and they just carry on forever. They're brilliant. They're brilliant. And what's exciting about the live is just our main cast going into this sort of strange, unpredictable pot boiler of you know what might happen. I think that's what's
yeah, and to have
exciting,
and to have Marc's eye on capturing it. It means we're going to have this crazy mishmash of 12 hours of live theatre, but also a 12-hour piece of slow cinema. So
yes, very true. It's going to be. I hope you're all very fit. I hope you will be working out in lockdown. I wanted to ask a little bit more about the atmosphere, just of the film section that you did, Marc. So Summer, because one of the things that completely freaked me out was the sound. I mean, you know, again, I'm going to go technical. The kind of mushroomy sound, and then also the sound of dread throughout. There you go. That's my description. I wondered, was it written in there, Dennis? And Marc, how did you decide to achieve it?
Well, you know, no, it was, I've worked with Marc before. When I worked on Utopia with Marc, you know, people keep asking me about the colour yellow. And I've had to point out that I didn't write the colour yellow. That was him, you know, but the same with the sound. But I mean, what I suppose what I do is, you know, for me, it's about trying to sort of create an atmosphere and a sort of, you know, you try and write into the sort of fabric of what you're writing, a sort of, you know, I don't really see things when I'm writing, but I hear voices very clearly, and I kind of feel the tone of it. So if I can write that in, I don't need to write all the, I mean, if you write all of this sort, you know, some writers write in camera angles and stuff like that, and any good director worth their salt will come in and go, get rid of that. They're going to bring their own stuff, you know, and what you're trying to do is you don't want to act, you don't want to, because the actors are going to do that. You don't want to direct because the director's going to do that. But you want to try and give them things that they can then run with and take off into really interesting places, which is what Marc does so amazingly. Is, you know, all of that stuff is out of his crazy head.
I think what's interesting is that it's just about excavating the text, really, and the text is so rich in the scripts, you know, and that's to do with atmosphere as well, you know. So the sound, I mean, I work in quite a detailed way on sound, not just, you know, a lot of those sounds are in the music rather than the sound effects and things. But I think it's just about creating the atmosphere, which is sort of latent in the script, you know, and that's where the sort of the point of view comes from as well. It's sort of latent in the script, and it's about sort of trying to bring it to the surface. And then when you start working with people like Jude and Katherine, they start bringing up this sort of wonderful stuff. It's about how best can we sort of distill that and get that on the screen. And sometimes that might just be to do with sound as well, and sometimes it's about where you put the camera. But I think it all begins with what those words are in the script, and little things can spark off, you know, just like extraordinary things, you know, it just ramifies outwards.
And Dennis, you were quite present on the shoot, right? Is that usual for you?
Well, not super present. I mean, I'd sort of turn up like, you know, my thing is, I guess, to sort of be around about once a week, you know, because I think any sort of more often than that, and you get in the way of people, you know, you just, but I would watch the rushes all the time, and I was always in contact with either Mark or Philippa, and just, you know, just generally chatting with. I mean, it's something like this. You're lucky that you're working with people that are at the top of their game. So, you know, you don't have to. You know, you need communication. So you need, what you really want to do is you want to, before the shoot starts, you want to, you know, talk as much as possible. And, you know, Mark or Philippa will both interrogate the script, and we'll have discussions and debates and arguments about what's going on. But if you can do that as much as you can before you go into it, you know, because the thing about, you know, shooting TV or film, it's sort of like a tanker. You can't turn it around once it's going. You can't turn it around, you know, and everything happens really, really fast. So, you know, I'd be in touch with what was going on a lot, but I wouldn't really be there more than, you know, once, maybe twice a week, because, you know, people just trip over me.
I'm just going to ask everybody, if he was there, did you do like especially well? Did you like, you know?
Especially bad.
he's here now.
I feel like I was always cornering you, Dennis. So you get on set and I'd be like, great, you're here. I've got 15 questions. And then I get pulled back to set and I come back and he would have vanished.
But, you know,
running from me.
But that is really good, because I love that. I think that's like, my view on that is, you know, someone like Katherine is, yeah, you have got a lot of questions, but that's because you know the character better than I do. Like when I think when it starts out, right at the beginning, I know it more than anyone else, because it's just me and the thing, you know. But then later on, you know, you start handing it over to other people, and then what happens is, you know, Mark knows it intimately in a way that I'll never know it, because he's right up close to the image. And then Katherine and Jude will know it in a way that I can never know those characters, because they're in every single breath, whereas I'm not. I'm in a different sort of way. I mean, but it does mean I can, you know, I can answer questions and we can have discussions. And with Katherine, it was, you know, it was always like, you know, and with Jude as well, you'd have discussions about it, and I'd realise maybe I've got this a bit wrong now, and I need to change it and move it around, you know. So I love all that stuff, because I think it's sort of, it's everyone making it together. You can't make it on your own. You've got to make it with other people, you know.
I think what was extraordinary about this piece was this sort of common sense, this sort of commonality, that we all had this idea of this world. So you know, listen, it helps when you have a really strong script to start with, and it helps when you have producers who allow directors to explore, and actors who are willing to go there. But all of those elements can sometimes butt up against each other, or they don't quite, you know, dance at the same time or to the same beat. And I think the reason it worked very well was that there was it maybe isn't accurate to say an unspoken, because we spoke about it a lot, but there was this sort of sense of what we wanted to create as a whole, that we all contributed to, all very collaboratively, very openly. And I think it's why also, and perhaps one of the reasons, is that we all knew we were going to come back and do this live thing. In a way, it was like we were all leading to something that was also then a sort of dropping off the abyss into, you know, or into the abyss, into this sense of unknown. But there was a sense always of, you know, I've got it now, and then I'll pass it to you, and you've got it, and do you see what I mean? It was.
Can I just say, you're literally sounding like the Islanders now. I mean, it's like you've got your community, which is the film set, and you are building towards an event. You have become the Islanders.
Have I got skills?
You have, definitely. Oh yes, I feel like I should ask you about water. Oh my goodness, you were in the water. I'd like to ask you just a very, you know, a straightforward question about What's it like being in water for that long, Jude? And Katherine actually as well.
Yeah, Katherine too. Yeah, we first of all, I think it's important to know that the speed this tide comes in really does put you at risk. And over the days and hours that we grabbed those certain scenes that take place on the causeway, we really were given windows of sometimes 10, 15 minutes, and were caught sometimes in vehicles. I remember Mark and I barely making it back in a car, driving like crazy along that perilous road that Katherine talked about, because the water was literally rising up around the car. And the same thing happened when we were filming the escape scene, or the attempted escape. You know, I remember looking over one and the boom operator was literally floating away. I'm not joking. I mean, the tide is incredible, because you've got water that's rushing in like this both ways, and it pulls you, kicks you under your legs and pushes you over the top. So it can be very, very dangerous. It wasn't as cold. I think I left that up to the winter department. I think they dealt with something.
Yeah, you should. Your person who you want to ask is Naomi.
Yeah.
Naomi Harris.
Yeah, I feel like we can't really complain.
No.
Oh my God.
We just to put it in perspective, we went in the water in August and had blue lifts and were absolutely freezing. Yeah, the hottest summer in history, right? Yeah, and it was absolutely freezing. We couldn't feel our hands, and Naomi went in November. So,
okay, yeah, okay. I'll dismiss this then. It was easy.
I also remember, you know, I think we're shot, you know, collectively for about a week, at least for like half the day or a quarter of the day available, and then Mark would keep coming back going, we're just going to do a bit more, we've got a bit more, how much do we need? We'd constantly go back in the water, more running, the water's coming a little bit more, let's just get a little bit more from this point of view. It was truly never ending, the escape.
Yeah, there were moments where we turned to each other, Jude, and we were like, I don't remember it being this physical in the script. So, didn't read this brutal.
Yeah, I'm sure I didn't read this part. It seems to have been added. So look, I'm going to bring in some of the questions that the lovely audience have here. And there's one here, which is from Alexa Tamsett, and it's for you, Mark. And it is, you've talked about wanting to break the fourth wall, merge the mediums of theatre and television. Mark, are there any particular devices or techniques that you use to achieve that in your direction of these episodes? So of Summer.
No, I think Summer is a piece of television. You know, it's written as a piece of television, it's performed as a piece. I think, you know, apart from the single person perspective, which is will be revealed as you go into the second and third episode, why that is like it is. So I think if you've only seen the first episode, you don't get the full story of that. I think that, you know, it's a straight TV series. I think what we're trying to do with Autumn is to try and, what I loved about the Punch Drunk shows is that sense of totally being out of your comfort zone. You get there and you're totally freaked out. And I was, you know, I was like a massive fan before I met Felix and things. And I think we're going to do a similar sort of thing. I think we want to be able to change, you know, turn on a penny. There might be bits of the, you know, watching the causeway, crossing the causeway slowly for, you know, 15, 20 minutes, but then something might happen to turn it about, you know, so there'll be high drama and there'll be sort of slow cinema, and there'll be lots of anthropological elements to it as well about, you know, telling the story of what the island's like. So I think that, you know, in that sense, you know, we're going to use lots of different mediums there. So I suppose, you know, that might be breaking a wall in some sort of way.
That's interesting, actually, because there's another question here from Jennifer Davenport, and she basically says, it sounds really exciting, but I can't fathom the 12-hour event as a viewer. So are we meant to tune in and just experience it like, this is great, experience it like some sort of ASMR? So like we're meant to be really soothed or slightly creeped by it? Or do we cancel all the plans and stay glued to the screen for the story? So
I think basically, you know, the summer and winter are so brilliant and have such fantastic you know, works of art in their own right. And we didn't want Autumn to be like television at all. But like we are kind of imagined it more an art installation. So in our mind's eye, the best place to watch it would be in an art gallery in a dark space with a big sound system, and then you can sort of dip in and as you like, and you know, you can come and go. I think it'd be a great thing to sort of switch on 3 times over the course of the day and see the descent of the characters as they move through the action, and almost like the, you know, a group of friends watching different bits of it and coming to share what they saw is the sort of water cooler moment that I hope will capture and will make it personal to them.
Okay, great. There's some great questions here. So if I don't get to your
questions, you can
questions,
just watch it all though. If you're completely like, if you want to, don't worry about it. Like if you want to start at minute 1 and go through to, you know, hour 11:59 minutes, just do it. You know, it's
why not? It's a good way to spend a Saturday.
Make sure you get exercise in between. Deep fame.
We do hope some people will do that, right? Like we want to hear from those people, right? We want to hear about the people who made it their day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
hoping some people will.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got another question here, which is for both you, Jude, and you, Katherine, and it's from Amelie. And she says, what would you say is the hardest part of playing those roles? Oh, they're intense roles, right? So what would be the hardest bit for you? I'm going to go to you first, Jude.
I think carrying the fragility of this man emotionally for the duration of the schedule, the filming schedule. We shot, I think, for about 3-4 months, and the physical aspect didn't bother me so much. I was sort of ready for it, and you know, when you're making a film, if you're doing it, then probably, you know, half the crew are doing it with you. So, you know, I've never been a fan of being the person who complains about the mud or the wet, or I always feel like that's part of making a piece of television or a piece of film. But emotionally, I think I said this already, I really underestimated what it was like carrying that sense of loss, because he's someone who's been living with it anyway for years. And I remember early on Mark saying, you know, the easier way to have played him would have been to someone very emotive. In fact, instead he's almost cried out. It's like he's like an empty, emotional, spent force. And so to kind of get there every day was not really very nice, to be honest. There you go.
Yeah, hard.
Yeah.
And you, and Katherine?
So a couple of things. One is that she's much more the life of the party than I am. And that's really quite terrifying as an actor, I think. Like, I've played so many really sad and miserable people, and weirdly enjoy that kind of exploration, or that feels somehow like a kind of a safe space for me, or somewhere I can see the roadmap to playing those kinds of characters. But it's a terrifying challenge, I find, to play someone who is freer than I am, because you know, your body is your tool, you know, to express and reveal the character. And if your body doesn't like to move as freely as a character you're playing does, it takes a bit of nudging yourself. So that was a big internal conversation throughout that was so helped by those rehearsals with the Punch Drunk Company and playing with them in the scenes. But to force myself outside of my comfort zone physically was, and really everything about her, just her demeanor, and it's a kind of American woman that I am not, but that I know well, right? That sort of plants her feet and tells the truth and doesn't care what people think of her, and that it was a good exercise for me. It was good for me to spend time with her. I think it did me personally some good, but was very scary at the time. And
so
then
now you can walk into any pub.
Yeah, exactly. But I also think there's something difficult about playing the person that someone else is trusting, because, you know, narratively, something I felt was like a really big risk was that if I wasn't believably trustworthy or believably grounded and in my relationship with Sam, that I'd make Sam look like an idiot for staying on the island. And that was another thing. Yeah, basically I'm just talking about the things I like lost sleep over. I don't know if they were the hardest things, but they stressed me out.
Okay, look, I've got a question here, and this is for Jude from an anonymous attendee. It says, dramas like The Third Day are breaking new ground. As an actor, are TV and streaming networks now more exciting to work with than film studios? You kind of have to say yes, because this is Sky, right? I'm joking.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I think the answer, well, I guess the answer is yes. I mean, you know, there's still a challenge, you know, for anyone out there to keep pushing the envelope and pushing the boundaries of filmmaking, given the conformities of filmmaking, that there's a sort of certain amount of time, and obviously it's just a challenge getting certain films under a certain budget made nowadays. Even, I mean, we've always said that, haven't we, as filmmakers, but it's getting harder, folks. You know, it'll just be superhero films probably for the near future. But what is exciting is indeed that TV, you know, the creatives and the producers of television are recognizing, I think, also the sophistication of their audiences, and that audiences are happy. If you look at the way we, you know, series or episodes, episodic television has evolved, and just what we are now allowed to do as audience members, it's really quite wonderful. Things being told backwards, things being told in upside down, this way, that way. I mean, all of that is proof that it's gaining confidence, and this surely is, I like to think, a huge step in the direction of what else is possible.
Very much so, I think. Okay, so I've got one more audience question, and I'm going to ask you all a question which I like, which is just what's been your favourite moment of making it? It doesn't have to be on screen, it can be something back, but just think about your favourite moment of the whole event. And this is, anyway, this question here is really, I suppose, for you, Felix and Mark, but it's about the preparation process for autumn, and it's kind of for everyone really as well. Darren Singh, I think, how are the rehearsals structured and carried out for the production of that scale, and how much of that show is scripted, how much is left to improv re-autumn? So you're there now. Are you going to be living there till October the 3rd?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, there's some is scripted, and Dennis has written those. But obviously 12 hours is an awful long time, and a lot of it is sort of action. So we're in the process of devising bits of it now, and a lot of it is actually sort of going through the steps and the motions and the activity of this whole festival day, the dates in their calendar. But I think what's so exciting about us doing this together is, you know, we're standing a scene up, and then Mark's already putting the camera in there. We're just trying to see what we've got, and because it's such a fusion, we still don't quite know exactly what it is. We're gonna work through it in these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's terrifying, basically. But yeah, no, I think what's great about it is that I'm seeing how Punch Drunk start to devise these things, you know, from the ground upwards. But we've also got Jude and Katherine coming in and bringing their story into the island.
When do you have to arrive then, Jude and Katherine? When are they booked in?
I get there with about three days rehearsal.
Yeah.
Friday, Thursday, Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing.
But, you know, I mean, we joked about this, but in all truth, you know, the 4 or 5 months that we spent making or was put into making and creating these characters for the 6 parts of television were in many ways, you know, incredible preparation. I mean, emotionally and as a I know this character very, very, very well. And Mark, Felix and I had a prep meeting a couple of weeks back where we sort of touched on certain points, and apart from lockdown, I'd done another job, and all sorts of things had happened since. But to be able to clock straight back into that world and Sam was pretty easy. And I just want to add, I think also I've asked both Mark and Felix, there are certain elements I don't want to know. You know, there are certain senses, there's a certain part of me where I want to react. I want to be taken for that journey by the natives of OC, the family of OC, the Punch Drunk Crew company, you know, in reality.
Yeah, very much so. Whoa. Okay, so look, I want you all to just tell me your favourite moment so far, given that we haven't done the autumn yet, of this whole project. Can you tell me? I'm going to start with you, Dennis. What's been your favourite moment so far?
That's really, really hard, because Felix and I have been doing this for 9 years. So there's been a lot of moments.
This is my life.
First started talking about it 9 years ago. You know, it's a ridiculously large amount of time. But there's a million moments, and like there's loads of moments when, like, you know, I was seeing the rushes come in that, you know, you just feel, I was seeing what Mark was shooting, and you just feel kind of elated. You know, you just think, God, this is it's brilliant. It's got, you know, and you see the performances and stuff. But I think the moment that stands out is to do with people that aren't here. Actually, it's to do with Philippa and Naomi and that winter block, because I'd worked with Mark before, so to some extent I felt I was very comfortable with Mark, and I'd seen all the rushes, but I hadn't worked with Philippa before, but I'd really admired her work. But you just don't know. You don't know until, you know, it's quite possible. And we were talking, and everything was like, it felt like we were on the same wavelength. But you still don't know. Like, people can be crazy, can't they? You know. But I remember getting on set and seeing what she was doing, and just thinking, this is great. This is great. And it wasn't. So I don't know if it's my favourite moment, but it's the biggest sense of relief. You know, just seeing how brilliant Naomi was, and seeing, you know, because we hadn't had Naomi on set yet, and she's an amazing actress, but, you know, you don't know. You don't know. People could sort of, like, you get there and suddenly, you know, they've, I don't know, the character's completely different. But that was a real moment of, like, okay, I think we've got a fighting chance now. You know?
I think it might work. Okay, what about you, Katherine? What was your favourite moment?
I have a favorite moment that is such a spoiler that I can't tell you.
Oh no, okay, we can't say it. Okay.
I'll tell another one that just really amused me, which was, I think Jude knows what I'm going to say, but we were shooting a scene as the tide was going out. I don't think we were actually on the island, but we were near the island and the tide was going out, and there was a heat wave. It was like 42 degrees and it was like sunset, so it would have been a blazing hot day. And in the scene, we were trying to climb onto a boat, but the tide went completely out and we hadn't quite finished shooting the scene. So it got to the point where there was crew standing on the back side of the boat to hold it, to keep it from kind of tipping over. It was just parked in the sand by the time we finished shooting. And you know, and we were doing a lot of kind of, I mean, it's just amazing how something can go from being really intense and we feel really deep in the scene to just total absurdity in just a matter of 5 minutes. But, you know, we're sort of like fake swimming. Someone's throwing water on us to look wet as we climb out of the boat. And we're like lying in about an inch of water, singing like in the shallows, trying to like stay wet. And that was a fun moment for sure.
Okay.
I'll tell you in a year what my real favorite moment was.
Okay. Yes, not yet. Okay. Felix and Mark, what? Well, you can both separately. What's your favorite moment?
Mine was just showing the first cut of the. You know, was just like when people liked it. It was just such relief. I was just sort of, you know, that I hadn't made a complete pile of shit. I mean, because, you know, you just get so close to something and you're there and you're just watching the cuts go through thinking, I don't know whether this is good or bad anymore. And then you get, you know, Jude and Dennis and Cameron and Adrian, the producer, came in, you know, and actually sort of thought it was all right. And that for me was the moment thought, oh God, okay.
There's a lot of relief here, I'm sensing, everyone. Okay, Felix. Yeah, I suppose yours hasn't happened yet.
Will be 9:35 on October the 3rd, PM.
Okay.
But that hasn't happened. So I think it was just a big, when we were shooting it last summer, I actually just got the maelstrom of chaos, and actually, you know, for me, learning so much from all these brilliant people and bearing witness to it. And then when the weekends came, we all stayed on the island, and it became our home. And so it was both our workspace and our play space. And it feels like it was the sort of biggest sense of sort of show community I've ever had. So it was a beautiful thing.
You are all islanders. I am right. Okay, Jude, what was your favourite moment?
Well, I have to follow Felix there, because I do think there was something very special about the little moments of just cycling the 2 minutes down the track to work, or sharing dinner with Katherine and her family, or Felix and Mark. You know, there was a lovely sense of community when we were making it that is very rare, even when you're on location. And I really believe it added an extra quality to the atmosphere of the piece we made.
I agree. Okay, so look, it's getting dark. It's dark in my room. It's darker where you are, Jude. And things are going down.
I need to turn some lights on, don't I?
We all need to turn some lights on, or maybe we don't. And I have an awful feeling none of you will ever return from OC after October the 3rd. But, you know, if you don't, we've really loved it. I'd just like to say thank you to you, lovely audience, for coming. We can't see you, but we very much appreciate you being there. And to remind everybody that the next episode is on tomorrow night at 9 o'clock on Sky or Now. And obviously we'll be tuning in on October the 3rd to see what happens. But I'd like to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to Felix and Mark in your weird paradise. Thank you to Katherine. Thank you to Dennis. And thank you to Jude. Goodbye all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miranda. Thank you.
Goodbye.